Yo.
All right, it's 9 o'clock. We're trying to wait on Lou. Lou's having a little issue getting on the computer tonight. But first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out and joining us this evening to talk about lessons of the horse and how it relates to being an athlete and how we coach our athletes. So we're going to wait on Lou for a minute, see if he gets on. I'm going to start the video. Lou, wait, do you want to start the video or do you want to do it halfway through?
Well, go ahead and start it. We're going to talk tonight about, lessons in coaching from the language of the horse. Since Lou's not on yet, why don't we just do the video for 2 minutes, and then we'll get rolling with some great principles, a couple stories that Lou would like to share that will help translate what we do every day, whether we're teaching, coaching, parenting. I think as we put on the introduction tonight is give us a different perspective. When you see something sometimes different than what you're doing all the time, it kind of works really well. So, was that Lou just got on or no?
No, it was Mike. All right, well, I'm going to play the video here.
Sure.
We'll just sit back and watch it, and then just real quick, is it lewsterrett@gmail.com, because I can re-invite him real quick if you think that would help.
Yeah, sterrett
@gmail.
I don't know. I mean, I have to look up on
Lou.
my Hotmail.
Oh wait, it is Lou. Mike gave him his, so Lou's on right now.
Okay.
I don't have a screen. I just have
The phone number.
I'm on the phone and I have a white page that says event in progress.
Okay, it'll be kicking up here soon then.
Okay.
We're gonna go ahead and watch the video, Lou, and just kind of sit back, and then we'll come back to the PowerPoint and we can move forward.
Okay.
Here we go. That's awesome. All right, I'm going to switch into full mode and go over to the PowerPoint. Wade,
Yeah.
just give me a second. Let me get this up, and then I'll give you your I'll give you, you can go ahead and start the thing.
Great.
Go ahead and start, and then I'll let you know whenever you're ready.
Okay. Well, hey, great to have everybody tonight. Great time out there, Lou. Just the thing that continues to nail me is when you said that, more horses have made trainers than trainers have made horses. And, it's amazing how many times we think we're really there, and we are there, to lead those we're coaching and be around them and influence them and, have an impact on their lives and teach them the game or teach them the class and the subject. But bottom line, Lou, it's the bigger picture in that, isn't it?
It really is, and we certainly can facilitate people and have a great responsibility in that area as we do a horse. But we have to give credit where there's a lot of effort that makes a lot of good hands look good.
Yeah, and that is so true. So, hey, we're looking forward to a good night tonight. I ventured into this horse world with you, Lou, since my daughter started riding years ago. We got introduced to you, and I knew nothing about the subject whatsoever except the cowboy movies you watch. And I've learned a lot over the years, and what we want to do tonight is take lessons you've learned, in horses and translate that into our coaching world, to help us try to be a better coach in just some situations and see things a little bit differently through kind of your eyes in the horse world tonight. So one of the first things tonight, we're going to talk, we just want to translate this lessons in coaching from the language of the horse. And I think that's a picture of you, and I think that's Spark there. I don't know if you got the PowerPoint for you now, but or do you?
That's Spark, one of my favorites, and he's been with me a long time. And, the irony of it is, as you said, in fact, I said to you, why do you want me to help you with athletes? I'm not the professional there. And you said, yeah, but if you can help that 1,300-pound horse, you should certainly be able to help a couple of our linebackers or big players, And the one thing we have in common is that the language between a horse and a trainer is basically silent. Body language, it's action. And, of course, because we talk as people, we think that because we speak words, we communicate. Only 7% of our language is really communicated through language, or through words. And what I do is give reflections to people about the real power struggle, the real relationships that are taking place by these illustrations that are silent. And it gives everybody the permission and the ability to come on board and say, yeah, there's a lot more going on than we usually perceive.
Yeah, so that's so true. So as we begin this tonight, as we look at our players, we look at those around us, first we want to ask the question, what do you see as a coach, and what are you after? You could see an athlete come out, do I just see the size, do I see speed, strength, the skill level? Do I see things beyond that? Do I begin to see the strength of their character? Do I begin to see the integrity of their play? Do I really see, and am I looking for how they respond to extreme situations? And I think the more we begin to see that, what really makes a difference, the more we'll see why it's so important to be coaching for life and not just the season, not just the sport. But for most coaches, and I'm sure it's the same in the horse world, a horse will walk in, Lou, and you can see the size and the muscles, and you can pick it off right away because that's a tangible thing you can see and kind of look at, correct?
Well, the other night, even here in Mississippi, we had sleeting, cold weather, and about 300 people sitting out there watching. This horse took forever. And, of course, at the moment, it doesn't look pretty, and it's not acting pretty, and you see all the ugly. And I keep telling the audience, what I'm looking for, what I'm seeing is the world champion. Today I'm laying the first step for a big building. And so I have to be willing to see the large picture in order to be willing to know what step to take first.
Huh. So tonight we want to talk and really review what we talked about before as a coach, as a leader, the areas we need to address to really capture the heart of those around us are really these three things. We talked about this before in webinars, but we're really after these three: behavior, attitude, and heart. And if we can get to those three things and always be kind of drilling the heart to go deeper, I think that's what we all want. We want people who are engaged with not just just physically there in bone and skeleton and muscle, but boy, when you tap into that inner part, it is so huge. It makes such a difference on a team. It makes such a difference in a classroom and in a business when heart's involved. And too much of today is kind of just going across the top of just all we're looking for is behavior and performance. And you know what? I know the kid has a lousy attitude and drives people nuts, but boy, he can sure play. And we let that kid get away with things for a while, but that one day will come and you know, that check will be cashed, and that happens. But these are three things, Lou, that are so important, aren't they?
Well, it's to check our own motivation. You know, we may not want to invest in the heart because we really only want behavior, but if you always reap what you sow, and if you're willing to go deeper, you're going to get more out of them.
So these are the three things we're after, so let's jump into this. When you begin to look down, breakdown of a horse, there's really three parts of the horse that we're after. The first part, Lou, is the head. The neck.
Well, you know, see a horse if he veers, or if he throws his head, or he flicks his ears, or flared nostrils, you know, those are the obvious things. And those are, the head is set on a shoulder, it's set on a body, and so we use the head to illustrate a lot of things that we see in a person's face, in their countenance, in their behavior, coming out of words that come out of their mouth. Those are the obvious things that even the casual observer can see. And
of course, the second thing is the shoulders.
The issue behind that is the real point of resistance or strength is the neck is kind of a rubbery deal, even physically, and it has to sit on something solid, and that's the shoulders. And of course, that represents the attitude. You know, behind every countenance or a frown, there's usually, we say a person has a bad attitude. Behind a smile is a good attitude. Well, behind the behavior in the head and what the horse does with their head is a stiff or locked shoulder or a soft and yielded shoulder. And that's why it reflects the attitude.
What about the hips and the back of the horse?
Well, that's what I tease about putting the heart back there because, you know, people say, well, I'm glad you're a counselor, not a veterinarian. Well, when we're talking about the heart, we're not obviously talking about the physical heart. We're talking about the drive, the real power source, the impulsion. But, you know, you can put a bridle on the front end, but you can't put a bridle on the back end. And I think that's one of the things that's so obvious, people, is you can't really bridle people's hearts. You can't harness their motives unless they willingly give it to you. But you can bridle behavior.
So when we're... Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. When we're trying to really capture motive and power, we have to earn the right to that end. In fact, if you don't, that horse will kill you. And that's why the horse is such a fun illustration, because he's so big and so dynamic that what he does physically to you. The other night, the horse just turned his head and just threw me 30 feet across the arena, just tumbled me. It was such a powerful horse. And people suddenly get a realization that, wow, you're dealing with real issues, real fear, real dynamic, and when you finally harness that, you've really captured quite a bit.
Because the explosiveness of the horse and all its power really comes from the rear as it pushes off and moves forward, correct?
Yes, and you can't really get true movement or long-lasting movement unless you really quit focusing on trying to just hold the face in and just control the shoulder or steer the shoulders. You really start to empower the horse from behind, and the horse gets lighter and softer, and finally the reins only steer the horse and support the horse. They don't really hold the horse or control him.
I think that's a great goal for us as coaches as we see our players is obviously we want performance. But boy, behind the performance there's this attitude, and if you get down to the very powerful source of everybody is their heart and their passion and their commitment. And if we can get to that, we've really produced the complete player, and we're tapping into stuff we usually don't get if we're not after it as a coach, correct?
There's a reason for that. I mean, you can't, I don't care how much I talk to people about riding and how to get a hold of the hip of the horse. They cannot get there unless they become an experienced, seasoned rider and have learned to use their own seat bones to really relate to the horse's hip. It's not the hands. And you really can't get to the heart of your players unless you've had your own heart dealt with and you become accustomed to engaging your heart to reach the heart of others.
So this also gets back to us, is I just can't go out and coach and do my coaching. My attitude, my heart has to be in it too. And how many times I forget that? I can go out and start going through practices and go
the truth of it is, as a coach, it will reflect things in your heart. You'll get angry at your players, you'll get angry at your family, and you have to come back in terms of, why am I angry? Why should I react? What do I want to do about this? And you start to have to own stuff deeper to have more fruit in your own life.
So true. Okay, story number one. The goal here.
My horse, I declare this is just something way get off the web.
Yeah. But I mean, this is such a picture. The goal to get the horse in the trailer. And when you told me this for the first time, or the goal, for the horse to trust the trainer. When I first heard that gave me such a different perspective on everything I do in practice. Everything as I lead, players and coaches. That thing just went off like a bomb in my mind.
Well, Wade, the irony of this thing is so true to sports, because when people want to load a horse in a trailer, the very first thing they do is take the horse to the trailer as if the goal is to get the horse in the trailer. And then they have a big fight at the trailer. The goal is never to get the horse in the trailer. That's the byproduct. And it's just like the goal is to win the game, or you start just with the game in mind. It's not. It's to build discipline. It's to build teamwork. It's to build character. It's to build attitude. And so, especially if I have a horse that's already been in a trailer accident, he's afraid of that trailer. A young horse that's never seen the trailer is afraid of the trailer, or they panic at it. Well, why make him hate the trailer? So I take him away and just teach him how to lead. And then I teach the horse how to stop and go forward on a cue. And then I walk him over something as basic as a piece of plywood, because it makes a different sound, and then over a tarp. And then after a series of exercise and disciplines where I know the horse is attentive, I know he's cooperative, and I know that he's been rewarded, and he has confidence, then I take him to his first scrimmage, which is the trailer.
I think the trailer represents things like that. It could be something new. We're going on a long trip. It could be a big game. It could be something where we played that team before and we just got crushed and we got to go do it again. And the fear, the dread, the issues. An athlete might have. It happened to me when I had knee surgery in high school. When I came back from that, I was so timid in my games because I was just so afraid to really push off my leg. And those things are an example of what a trailer is. But if you have a coach there that you can look to help you through those situations, it gives you that support. And we say it all the time that your team draws strength from the character of the coach. And when we're having a big game, and we look at March Madness and big games every week, players are looking to their coach to lead them and have poise and composure and strength in the midst of the runs and the pressure. That's how we can see the trailer, isn't it?
It is. We said earlier in one of our webinars that we don't rise to the occasion, we fall to the level of our training. And that's so indicative of when you come to a crisis like the trailer. The horse will not suddenly perform better. He will always fall to his level of fear or anxiety. And if it's at the trailer, he's more likely to get injured because now you have an object in addition to a non-equipped and prepared confidence.
So it really gets back then for coaches, are we really preparing our players for issues that are going to come?
We say, well, the player on the field you can't make their choices for you. Wrong. They make 1,000 decisions out there in the game, but the relationship you have with the trainer, with the player, will decide whether he's playing with you in mind or he's totally lost perspective. And so the more relationship he has with the coach, the more he wants to play with the coach's values, the more he thinks like the coach. Eventually, what happens when I load a young horse to the trailer, I just simply point within a half hour for a given audience. The horse has never been in the trailer. By the third time he's on the trailer, I point to the trailer and I show him where it's at, and I raise my hand, and he walks on there without any aid. He never follows me in the trailer. He walks on his own.
Wow, is there any kind of magical stuff we can get our players to do that?
Well, exactly. You see, the more relationship you build with your players off the court and in the practice season, the more he'll play that game on his own with you and your values in mind.
Wow.
You have to always encourage your people onto the trailer because you can't be there in the trailer itself. You can't be on the field. You're on the outside. So the more you encourage those values, the more he'll express those values under crisis, and they're your values.
Wow, that's great. Number 2, great picture here. I just thought the fact that the boot was flying up in the air added a little dimension there. But as the guy's going down, and we saw this in the timeout when we brought it up, of people, they have a horse that's bucking, that is rearing, that is having issues. They think, hey, if I get a new saddle, maybe that will work. And it's not always the case, is it, Lou?
You know, I've always heard that in my world, and when I was telling that to you, you got this laughing and howling because, you know, I say, well, people need a new bit, they need a new saddle, they need a better trainer, they need a new farrier. It's a way of projecting our failure on somebody else. So we say, well, we need better turf, or we need a better coach, or we need more equipment, or whatever. We need a different league that we play in. And the truth of it is we need to find out what our faults are, we need to own them, and we need to build the disciplines and character in a relationship.
And this gets us back to the three things here: behavior, attitude, and heart. The issue's not the saddle. The issue is what's...
It doesn't mean that there aren't equipment issues. I wouldn't want to deny that issue, you know, or there aren't turf issues, that kind of thing. They're minimal when it comes to really building the character. And if we build the character, it goes off the field, and it goes past the equipment issue.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting here is, you know, when you look at these, the issue of like a new school, a new stadium, a new field, it does bring a renewed sense for athletes or school kids going to a brand new school. They got their old school, they're in a brand new one. But if you don't deal with the heart issues, those things are only short term, because I've been to, you know, whether it's a city school or a school dealing with issues, when they get a brand new schoolmate, and that first year might be great, but the next year the graffiti shows up again, attitude, issues in the classroom. And the same way with a coach. You can have a team with a brand new field, or they redid their gymnasium, and those things are great and they are needed, but they're not the real issue, are they?
We're always looking across the fence. If only I had what they have, then I'd be successful. No, until you come to terms with what you have and make the best out of it, you will never be successful. It's a matter of projecting our sense of, it's a fantasy is what it is.
Yeah. And what is the breakdown here at the saddle for the horse? That saddle represents greater responsibility, that the saddle's being put on to carry a teammate, to be part of a team, to have a role that goes beyond myself, to the coach is trusting me with this play. It's a greater sense of responsibility for the horse, and for the rider, that saddle represents that relationship. You just talked earlier about how important the relationship and connection is. And that seating, when you sit on the saddle, on the horse, it's that relationship where you really feel the horse, isn't it?
So many times people will use a good cue, but they will misuse it because they don't have the feel for the cue. So if somebody else watching says, boy, that's a terrible cue. Well, you know, things like that take experience. Somebody that's good with wood or good with their hands, they can go out there and make that machine work just perfectly, but somebody who's not can take the same machine and mess up the wood project. And so we tend to think, well, if I only had their machine, then I could do the thing. No, there's a sense of feel that comes with timing, with patience, with listening, with relationship, and that's what we want to breed into our players.
And that's for us as coaches to be more skillful in our coaches, correct?
Oh, it is. I think that we think our job is talking when it really is more listening and reflecting what's really going well and how this player is starting to move towards the undefined, unvisualized goal. And when we give them that, now we start to release their power and their enthusiasm.
You're talking about in the coaching world, all we do is mow mouths all the time. We got to fill up silence, and we talk so much we hardly ever listen. And really, if there's one thing I think in the coaching world we need to really be good at is becoming more attentive and observant of those around us, so we can pick up the signs that our players are showing us every day.
On the other hand, Wade, when it comes to a lot of men as dads, they observe a lot, but they don't always intentionally invest or speak into. And that is the other side of it, of observation plus intentional investment.
The third thing I want to talk about tonight is just the reins. And the reins represent the rules. So as I'm holding the reins with the horse and I'm pulling and cueing to either the right or the left and wanting the horse to go a certain direction, either what happens here, the horse either resists that and can jerk and pull away, or it will yield into the pressure and follow the direction of where the coach, where the rider wants him to go. So Can you explain a little bit more about the reins and why they're so important? You need them, but you said earlier that you get to a place where the reins are just kind of pointing direction. You don't see the rules anymore, correct?
Well, that's so true. You know, when we start riding, and I think this is such a parallel illustration to coaching, things like that, or teaching, it wouldn't matter what our jobs are. We think that our position is what gives us authority, our rules, or because we're older, or because I said so, that kind of a thing. And so we all start out. Every rider starts out, and they actually hang on the reins to balance themselves. And they actually hang on the horse's mouth, which teaches the horse to be dull and indifferent. And then they steer. The only mechanism they have to steer is with the reins, and the only way they have to stop the horse is with the reins. And their whole focus is the reins. If you took the reins out of the relationship, it would be just catastrophic. Because that's all they have are the rules, the behavioral guidelines. And that's true with a child. You have a certain parameter of offense, or a stranger. You have certain expectations. But you know, if you always ride that way, you never mature. So when I start out in my training sessions, I show people how we control a horse with reins. And of course, the real goal is that we ride with loose reins. The less mature you are, the tighter they are, the shorter they are, the more controlling you are. The more you tend to trust the horse and teach the horse what's expected, the more you can release the reins and then correct him as he fails. But as I do my training clinics, I show the several different styles of the reins, and there's some very basic things. But I said as the horse matures, he becomes more responsive to the light touches. The rules are just things that guide and direct. They're the rewards and consequences. And then I take and show the public how I steer the horse from his shoulders, how we direct the horse through his attitude. And boy, that starts to steer not just behavioral expectations, but attitudinal responsibilities. And when you look at somebody and they give you a frown, you suddenly realize I have displeased them. They haven't yelled at you, they haven't said you've done something wrong, but I haven't measured up. Or they smile and you realize, wow, what an encouraging affirmation for the coach or my parent to smile at me. And of course, then I go to the hip and I steer the horse entirely by just turning his hip with my legs. And now you can begin to steer with the heart, and you begin to realize that there are ways and means by which convictions, shared values, knowing the heart of your parents or knowing the heart of your coaches, really begin to set the course of how passionately and freely and genuinely you play the game or do the job or do the homework assignment.
Well, that's so true, and I think, when you have immature or younger teams, you have to have more control as a coach and, more direction, obviously. But I think one of the issues for coaches, and even some, is giving up that control for some coaches is really hard. And there's a lot of coaches, if you watch, they're controlling all the time. And I think they miss kind of the goal of coaching is to empower others. And I don't know, just when you look at March Madness right now and you look at Duke, I think Duke, the way they play, really, they're playing the values of Coach K. Unselfishness, the drive, the discipline, the determination. You watch them play, they really reflect the values of their coach. You see them on the floor almost as a reflection of their coach from the sideline. But one of the issues, Lou, is a lot of coaches, it's hard to give up control. A lot of them are so controlling, they don't let their players be free. And I think we've talked before, is that every player longs for freedom and creativity. You've got to prepare them for that place, obviously. But as a coach, am I going there?
Yeah, it's often how we learned it, too. Somebody yelled at us, told us, punished us, rewarded us, manipulated us through behavioral rewards. And what it is, you see, that's what you do with a child. You direct them through all behavioral mechanisms, schedules, food, affirmations, those kinds of things, because they need that kind of structure and physical things. So here's the deal. If you continue to control and only motivate through behavior, it means that you're still in the infant stages of life, in leadership or in subordination. Either way, because that's where the level and the depth of your relationship goes. It takes courage to believe that love and investment have more power than control or yelling at somebody. never had it, then they're shooting in the dark. And so obviously we can only give many times what we've received. And there are a lot of poor people who've never really had the encouragement of somebody really believing them and empowering them without just simply yelling at them and criticizing them.
You know, the goal here, and I think we'll leave this slide up to end too, is just, we've used this in the retreats we've done together, but how do you take this incredible athlete with incredible power, speed, freedom, and how do we turn that into this incredible energy, you know, into a usable, harmonized power source of freedom? You know, as a coach, you said at the very beginning, and, you know, when you take a horse, my ultimate goal is to create a championship horse. And
not every horse is a world champion, but every horse should reach its potential, shouldn't they?
Yeah, and are we coaching in such a way where we're seeing what the potential is in trying to take this talent and issues and skills and attitude and heart and behavior and performance and coach in such a way that is pushing and leading and guiding them into a place where they can go out and play with all their heart. And I think that's the ultimate goal of coaching, releasing your players, empowering them to go out and do what they're meant and made to do. And if you have that, you have so much more than just athletic ability or just brain power in a classroom. You have an incredible time together, relationship and team, and all the intangibles come to the surface, which really make people fulfill their potential in championship and be a champion within.
Well, you know, Wade, we're not all starters and we're not all finishers. We have different gifts accordingly, and some coaches are good at really putting finishing touches on a player. Some coaches are good at getting them in shape, building their physique, things like that. And they need to know, like, not all trainers are finished trainers, and not all of them are coach starters, things like that. But here's the deal. Yeah. If we understand the process and we are engaged with taking raw material, let's just take ore out of the ground, and we separate it from other impurities, and then we separate it from its original form, and then we separate it from the form, you know, we make a vase out of it or something, then we can always go back to the ground and get more ore, and we have job security. But if we are afraid or we have to steal other players to make them successful, the more raw material, in fact, that's what the recruiters are all about, trying to find that raw material and to build that. And, of course, the more coaches that do that in high school, the more market they have for their players in college. But for a man or a woman who can see the potential, you know, there's a great proverb that says, the plan of a man is like a deep water, but a man of understanding draws it out. What a privilege in life to draw out the secret potential and the inner resources of a young man or a young woman and give them a hope and a purpose of life and help them develop that. What an honorable position for a coach to be in.
Wow, that's a great one. Well, Todd, we're going to open it up for questions and just want to encourage everybody if you're kind of, you know, just what are some lessons I can learn from my coaching through the horse and through, you know, the different situations and stories. I hope it gives you kind of a different perspective to evaluate ourselves. Where can I improve? Where can I get better? What am I doing well? I know for myself, and I know when we've done workshops with the horse live, they've been the most powerful things I've ever seen with coaches.
So it sure beats going with them dead, doesn't it?
Yep, that's right.
Do we have some questions?
Yeah, Todd, we'll fire this back to you.
All right. You guys did a great job tonight. It's really cool to hear how two totally different things can coincide and really, you know, come together, like the horse and the athlete. But if there's any questions out there, I haven't received any yet this evening. But if you guys have any questions, a little caption bubble on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, just click that and send me in a question. We'll sit here for a couple of minutes and see if you guys are, you know, wanting us to talk about anything further in depth. If not, we'll call it a night and move forward. So just kind of give us what you thought.
Hey, the other thing, I just want to welcome Brian Skinner, who's down in the island of Trinidad off the coast of Venezuela and South Africa, or South America. So I hope you're doing well, Brian. It's great having you on the webinar tonight. Brian's been using our stuff with Coaching for Life and the curriculum in the prison system down there and starting to get with more coaches. So it's great to encourage coaches, not just here in the States, but now in other parts of the world.
You know, Wade, along that line, one of the greatest privileges I have is to go into prisons where I'm allowed to, the lower security prisons, and take a horse who's never been ridden, never been saddled, and to go into the prison itself and ask the prisoners, how do you get out of a prison? And, of course, the horse, he runs around, he starts hitting that fence, and he's trying to get out of that prison, and he sees that his greatest enemy are those bars. And then he discovers the trainer. And it's a process by which he comes to terms with the trainer. But eventually the bars totally disappear. In other words, the pen is still there, but he's so infatuated with the trainer that it becomes his total focus. And then he becomes enthusiastically responsive. And eventually we saddle the horse for the first time, and he walks, trots, and canters. And rarely is there not a prisoner that isn't weeping.
Wow.
Hey, we had a coach today. Can you guys talk a little bit more about the balance between developing trust and building relationships while at the same time building the discipline the discipline and the boundaries?
I think those are very good questions. I'm going to just jump on this a little bit, Wade. You see, you must build the disciplines, and they're part of loving somebody. They're part of building relationships. But when we're building the disciplines, we must be key to the balance of training them, rewarding them, and then also letting them know what they're doing wrong and getting them back and doing it right. When we do that, they will build the disciplines. But at the same time, the way they understand the relationship and the values, the loving part, is when you give them focused attention, eye contact, and you physically touch them and help them succeed. So you can be pretty hard on them as long as you are really investing in them and they sense that you're investing in them.
Well, I think that's a great advertisement, because our next webinar, I think it's April 10th, is on discipline. And we're going to break that one down, and get into that one a lot. And, as a coach, that is always a balance for us. And, I think one of the things is when you really look at discipline, the definition of discipline that really helped me, so many times we think discipline is almost punishment, but discipline is correction. So when I have a player who's doing something wrong and, hey, I got to put him on the line because of his attention or he was screwing off for practice or whatever, I'm not punishing the kid. If my mindset is I'm correcting him, it sure helps me in my relationship with the player and what I'm really out for. I'm not here to punish it. And when players get that the coach isn't punishing me, he's correcting me when you get that buy-in. But the balance between the two is that love, that praise, that lifting up, but also, correcting them when they're doing wrong so you can propel them. And then here's the issue, is when a kid is doing something wrong, and you point him out in practice for a game and show him or tell him, hey, your footwork is totally wrong on that play, the next play when he does it right, you need to pounce on him just as much for doing what is right than when he did it wrong. Most places, if you go, the coach is yelling and screaming when the kid does it wrong, and the next play, the kid will do exactly what the coach told him to do correctly, and he doesn't hear a thing. And when that happens, that creates a negative, atmosphere to the team. And I've been around teams and talked to coaches and players where that's the whole atmosphere of the team. So there is a balance, and to maintain that relationship and always be, observant to what is going on.
Good. We got another question from Coach Holden. He just says, is there any advice that you can give to an athlete who, for good reason, don't trust their coach? He says the current coach really needs some direction from Coaching for Life, but until then, we have to work with him until a change is made.
Get a bigger bit, hit him harder.
One of the issues for players, I think, as a parent, or if it's a kid I know, is help guide their hearts through it and make sure they're okay. Because you're going to have coaches that aren't good. You're going to have coaches whose attitudes and the stuff we're talking about not even on the radar screen. And you're going to have, how do I as a player trust? And you know what? It's going to happen in life more than just this team. If someone's going to go get a job at a company, same thing's going to happen. So how do we teach kids to overcome and still play through those things in the midst of the chaos, in the midst of the environment they're in.
Every assistant coach, every parent ought to have a resource list of what are the benefits of a difficult authority. And it comes back to character. It comes back to being blameless. It comes back about striving for excellence. And sometimes you need to go to that coach and say, I'll put the work in if you'll honestly recognize the effort and tell me when I'm doing it right so I can please you. And many times it's a two-way street, and you just think they don't please you, but they're waiting to see effort. They're waiting to see sacrifice. They're waiting to see hunger and thirst.
That's great. Hey, going back to the previous question to that one, Coach sends back and just says, don't kids really just long for discipline and boundaries? Doesn't it remove anxiety in many cases?
Certainly boundaries are important, and they do long for structure and direction. But it has to be balanced with hope and direction. Without hope, it doesn't make a sense. It's just kind of like saying, I want to create a human body with just bones. It has to have the bones, so it has the structure and the discipline, but the real attraction is the flesh part, the other side of it. So it's objective and subjective, and I think that's the healthy balance and tension we need to keep it in.
But, yeah, I believe that kids are longing for boundaries where you have some clear expectations. They're not unspoken. The kids know what's expected when they go to practice. And the more clearly you spell those out, the more buy-in you get. And, kids are longing for boundaries because then it gives them a place they know where they stand, what needs to be done. They're bumped up against them, and they fight against them, but over time, if they stand firm, the boundaries aren't as important over time, and the values of the team and the coach can start coming through. So, yes, I believe kids are longing for it. So that's why you see if you go to practices and there are no boundaries, you don't have kids giving their whole heart to it. You have lackadaisical practices, going through the motions, and you just sit there and go, man, if coach just kind of disciplined things up a little bit, he would get more out of his players. They're looking for that. But the balance is absolute key.
Trust is absolutely based on the consistency or the trustworthiness of physical boundaries, relational boundaries, and conscionable boundaries.
That's great. Well, that's all of the questions that we have tonight. You guys are awesome when we get on here on Wednesday nights, and it's a pleasure to be a part of all this and be with you and let you kind of. I know you're helping a bunch of people out there, but you're also helping all of us who are, a part of this thing. So I guess we're going to end for the evening.
Well, Todd, we want to say congratulations to you for having a new beautiful baby girl this last week.
Yes.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
And also, I think this is a great...
Mike.
And Mike the week before.
Yeah. And also just want to...
Mike had his like 12 hours before us. We almost had it on the same day.
No kidding.
Well, congratulations to both. And this really sets us up for in the 2 weeks, I think it's April 10th, on discipline. And we're going to dive into that one. And we got some really cool stuff to help keep us balanced and focused as a coach to be disciplined in my coaching. How do I discipline my players to the stuff the kids are driving me nuts with? That's going to be a great one. So let's keep inviting more coaches on, and hopefully we'll get more on board. But appreciate you being with us tonight. Look forward to seeing you in about another 2 weeks.
Thank you, and good night.
Thanks. See you, Todd. Thank you very much, everybody.
See you, buddy. Good night.